Okay, I'm sorry about that. So application for items number 13, 14, and 15, which were all previously read into the record on April 1st, 2014. Item number 13 is an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, docket number 15-2794, block 2121, lots 36, 37, 38, and 44, 370 to 374 Clermont Avenue in the Fort Greene Historic District, a vacant lot, and the application is to construct 3 row houses zoned R6B. Item number 14, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, docket 15-2896, block 2121, lot 44, 71 Greene Avenue in the Fort Greene Historic District, a vacant lot, and the application is to construct a single row house zoned R6B. And number 15, a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Brooklyn, docket number 15-2508, block 2121, lot 39, 378 Clermont Avenue and 75 Greene Avenue in the Fort Greene Historic District, a colonial revival-style chancery built in 1930 and a colonial revival-style chancery residence built in 1938. The application is to modify an entrance, create and modify window openings, and construct a rooftop mechanical bulkhead.
Good afternoon, Carissa, landmark staff. The Chancery is a corner building with the east facade facing Clermont Avenue and the south facade facing Greene Avenue. Adjacent to the Chancery building is the Chancery Residence building, north. And the application is to construct rooftop bulkheads on both the Chancery building and the Chancery Residence building. Modifications to the existing limestone door framement along Clermont Avenue, and installation of the new windows and door openings at the secondary facades visible from the street. Staff notes that the existing 1/1 double-hung windows were installed without permits after designation, and the applicant will be working with staff to resolve the violation. The applicant is also presenting the construction of 3 new row houses along Clermont Avenue and 1 new row house along Greene Avenue. And the project team is here for that.
Okay, this read into the record, so we'll take testimony and we'll open the hearing for that purpose. A motion second. You're on. Ward.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ward Dennis with Higgins Quays Barth. As Kara mentioned, there are a few elements to this project. The main Chancery building on the corner of Clermont and Greene, former office building. The Chancery residence adjacent on Clermont, and then vacant lots where we will be constructing 3 row houses on Clermont and 1 on Greene Avenue. All these properties were previously owned by the Archdiocese of Brooklyn and have been recently sold. The office building will be converted and the others will be new constructions. The 3 row houses on Clermont are here. This is the residence, the Chancery at the corner, and then the single row house on Greene Avenue. Our presentation is going to cover all 3 applications. We'll get to the Chancery and residence at the end of the presentation to show you the row houses first. Just as background for the history of the site, the Chancery was constructed as a 5-story building in 1929, designed by F.J. Berlenbach. In 1939, there was a 2-story addition that raised up the railing parapet onto the top of that 2-story addition. The Chancery residence was constructed in 1938, designed by Henry V. Murphy. At the time of construction of the Chancery and Chancery residence, there were row houses adjacent, including this row house on Greene Avenue, which is now a vacant site. This is the main entry to the Chancery. You can see here the original window configuration, which Kara mentioned. On Clermont Avenue, there were another series of row houses, all the existing row houses that were taken down after World War II by the diocese were pre-Civil War brick row houses with brownstone bases, highly decorative wrought iron and cast iron railings, projecting cornices. These are all elements that we've been working with to bring into our design for the new townhouses. This is a streetscape along Clermont Avenue, the existing with a parking lot, the Chancery residence, and the Chancery itself. This shows the insertion of the 3 new row houses on Clermont. We are proposing some changes to the configuration of the bulkheads at the roof. There are visible bulkheads on the roof of the Chancery. We're doing some reconfigurations. And this is on Greene Avenue. We have a single vacant lot, which is now a parking lot, which we will be enjoying with a row house. This row house does have a small setback penthouse. There's an adjacent row house here on Greene Avenue. Adjacent to that is an under construction row house, so we've just shown it for its height. And I believe that there's an approval for a row house on this site as well. This is a closer in view of the Chancery residence, and the 3 new row houses. This is the opening which we are proposing to widen in order to provide ADA access to the apartment building. We'll show you details for that. The bulkheads at the roof, which will be reconfigured. New windows here and at some locations on the secondary elevations. Minor changes to the rooftop bulkheads on the Chancery residence. And then our 3 new row houses, which are clearly contemporary, but also take many of their cues from the historic row houses, including the alignment of the floor heights, the cornices, the masonry bases, the brick upper portions, and the metalwork and the like. This is a view of the Chancery with its main entry on Greene Avenue. This comes up a number of steps, which is why we're not using this for the ADA entrance. This is our row house proposed for the vacant lot on Greene Avenue. And again, this one has a small setback penthouse, which will be minimally visible from down the street. These are details of the Chancery, the main entrance to the Chancery, which goes up 5 or 6 steps. This back entry to the Chancery, which just has a single step and does have a very decorative limestone enfrainment. What we're proposing to do, and you'll see details, is to widen this opening by removing the pilasters to either side and widening the wrought iron gates. We feel that is the most appropriate place to handle the ADA entry because we only need to remove 1 step. We don't have to deal with a big lift or any ramp on the main entry. And the Chancery residence entry also has a number of steps going up, making it very difficult to handle. This is a longer view of the main entry of the Chancery along Greene Avenue. You can also see that there's a raised basement here. So that one door around the corner on Clermont is the one that goes in more or less at grade. Everything else is coming up over the raised basement. These are our neighbors along Clermont Avenue, the 4 existing row houses to the right of us on Clermont, and the existing row house to the left of us on Greene Avenue. This is a new row house under construction, and this is a farther back view along Clermont looking back towards the residence and the Chancery behind. We've spent a lot of time looking at details of the 3 Civil War buildings in the neighborhood, including the railings and the ironwork. You'll see later that the ironwork that we're proposing is derived from what existed on the buildings adjacent previously. But obviously there's a lot of detail and texture to the ironwork in this area. We're trying to bring that back in a contemporary way. We are setting back our row houses, lining up the areaway fences, and lining up the facades so that it respects the setback and stoop condition typical for this period of row house. We've also obviously been looking at the materials in terms of the masonry and the brick, but also the way that these row houses have both a uniformity and a variety within them. Including picking up details like projecting bay windows or oriel windows, such as you see in the top center here, or the way in which the different door surrounds and window planes step in and out. The window details that we're looking at, the typical windows for this era are double hung with very wide muntins at the center, which is usually meant to sort of replicate a casement window. So we are actually doing casement windows, multi-lights that pick up on that detail. The rear of our buildings, you'll see, is we're proposing a stucco finish. Most of the buildings surrounding us to either side on this block do have stucco finishes or arching or other non-brick coatings, so we feel that that is appropriate for this particular block. And then just a more detailed view of the row houses, including the elevation of the basement. The basement will be cast stone in a brown colored cast stone, replicating the brownstone. The upper portion will be brick with light colored mortar, similar to a lime-based mortar that you would find in the 1850s. You will see that these are the casement windows that I talked about, fixed panel below, so we have a very tall parlor window with a fixed panel and casement above, slightly shorter and then slightly shorter, so we're maintaining the hierarchy of the windows of a typical row house. We have the raised stoop and the areaway railings, and then this is a detail on Greene Avenue with the penthouse that is set back. Another thing that we're doing, and I'll let David Gross step in and show you some of the details, but we're bringing the texture and depth to the building, both in the recess of the entry, which you can see here, and the way that the parlor windows project out slightly, a couple inches, the upper floor windows set back slightly, a couple inches, and then we have this bay feature on 3 out of the 4 buildings. So with that overview, I'll let
Okay.
Gross talk about some
That's more than an overview, but please come on, with architect next, please. Identify yourself by name and just focus concisely on a couple of things you want to emphasize. Then we'll go to questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
Gross, G55 Park.
Yeah.
Our basic premise was we wanted to do a very conservative, simple facade that, as Ward said, was inspired by what was here. We're looking at it as a tailoring approach. You know, there's a blue suit and there's maybe a little more stylish blue suit, but they're both very fine fabrics. This is a fine fabric, similar to what's there, and we're trying to evoke and be inspired by the existing. So, as Ward said, we have the rhythm and the verticality of the existing windows. Everything's rectilinear. We have a simple brown stone base and a trim around the front door. And then some of the windows move out with these heavier frames, and some of them are recessed. When you look at the building and all the details, it'll add up to something that's very contemporary, but at the same time, it will look very compatible. The rear is stuck.
Go back to that for 1
Yep.
second. The section B shows a projected window. Where is that projected window? Like on the second floor? Or
That's this.
it's that? So that's sticking,
This projects,
that's sticking out beyond
Yes.
the plane of brick?
yes, and this one too. So there's a little in and out.
So,
And these are recessed with the jambs, the
right, so the second and
Without a-
third floor windows are inset, but the parlor floor windows are a tad proud of the brick.
Correct.
Or window.
The entire row, both of those windows?
Yes. And these windows are recessed and the jambs are metal, they're not a
Right.
brick return. So it has sort of a, you know, a little
Okay, no,
custom
just trying to
feel.
get it, that's all.
And then the panel between the top floor and the second floor?
Is flush with the frame and it's a light zinc, it's a zinc material.
It's them, let's see.
And the rear is stucco and frankly more contemporary, more personal than the rest of the facade. And these are the plans of the unit on Greene, on Clermont. Greene.
What do you mean by more personal?
I would say that the facades are good neighbors and they're an expression of living harmoniously and being inspired by historical events. And I would say that the rear is more about the owner of the house and how the internal functions of the house for this particular owner in 2014 would live. And I just want to point out, this is a photograph that Ward found of some of the neighboring railings, and this is our railing right here. We're trying to be inspired by what had gone before in a little different pattern, but clearly inspired by it.
These are open rings or they're?
Open rings. Open rings, just like this. But instead of one row, one lining up, we have them alternate. And instead of it being, you know, thick metal, this is a little thinner. And then our cornice is limited by the 10-inch projection over the sidewalk. And it is also articulated, but again, clearly contemporary because it's flattened. But in terms of its height, it lines up pretty much with the adjacent properties. And these are some of the window details to show you the care and specificity of each particular window. That is the example of how the window sticks out. That's an example of how the window is recessed. And some more details. And you know, this is the one on Greene, and you can see that it's definitely a good neighbor, but it's not old-fashioned. And then these are the 3 townhouses on Clermont, and you can see they're very sympathetic, but taken as a group, they're not historical.
You're showing a deep shadow, I didn't catch that in the section. Does the brick facade sit proud
Yes.
of the brownstone?
Yes, this
How
does
much?
sit, it's like 6 inches.
So it's 6 inches out.
Right. Again, the small clues.
I'm just trying to understand that.
No, but small clues to differentiate it from an old building. It's not supposed to look old, it's supposed to look new.
And the brownstone is
Or
a
what?
brownstone
Yeah.
cast stone.
Yeah.
right?
Yes, cast stone.
Yeah.
And then these are,
I have a question.
good.
Okay.
Rear, the choice of the stucco at the rear, since you're
Yes.
using a cast stone, for example, on the front.
Yes.
Why you went with stucco as opposed to another material that's contemporary, but still has that finish that refers to what's going on in the rear of the other buildings?
I was basing it on some of the neighboring properties in
Mhm.
terms of the material.
But it's stucco over concrete block, right?
It's not, it's a real stucco. And then we're doing some remedial work, I would say, is the best term for it, in the rear of the chancellery, in this area and this area. There's an existing stair that we're removing, and then, so this area becomes a single room. So you'll see on the next drawing, we've taken and made this a much larger opening, and the windows don't interjog with each other. And here's the window, same thing, you can see the windows are offset, and our new building's gonna cover a bunch of it, and we're gonna lock those up. And again, this is the window, the door opening we're going to be changing. That's the, shows you the windows that we're blocking up, and that, like near court, this is the existing condition that we pointed out in the photograph, and then this is the proposed new condition. And this is our technical drawing to show how we're going to carefully slice off 2 of the small columns to create this handicap door and adjust the gate a little bit. We thought this was the least intrusive way to make it a handicap accessible building and not touch the other 2 entrances. The one to the Bishop's house and the chancery, they're a little more ornate. They're gonna stay intact as they were. And this one, which is on grade, we felt was the most suitable for that change. And these are some representative plans of what's going inside the building. And this shows we did a mock-up of what the new bulkhead is gonna be, because on the roof, we're gonna have building recreation, and you can see that it's not very inobtrusive. And some more details of the building. Say again?
You're into the appendix.
Okay, I'm into the appendix and now I'm
Okay,
handing the wand
fine.
back to Ward.
Fine. Anything
Just one
else?
point on
Yeah.
the bulkheads at the roof of the Chancery, it's a very tall building that's visible from throughout the neighborhood.
Right.
There are existing bulkheads in brick.
Okay.
We are doing reconfiguring of the bulkheads also in brick.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the existing plan with the existing stair bulkhead and other rooftop bulkheads. And then the proposed, so we'll be moving our stair into the center of the building, away from this area. This becomes, I believe, a boiler room. Yep. And other bulkhead pieces back there. So we took a number, we built a mock-up, obviously, and then looked at the views. Most of the views that you get are either from a very long distance or are from some of the odd conditions in this area of Fort Greene. So looking over the playground at Bishop Laughlin High School, you will see the bulkheads, and that's, this is coming back in this area here. Each of these photos shows the 50-millimeter view and then a zoomed-in view adjacent, so you can get it, so that you can see more clearly what's going on up there, and you can see the existing bulkheads and what we're adding from far away. And again, as you get far away, you get different glimpses of this because it is one of the tallest buildings in the neighborhood. These views are taken from even further away down Greene Avenue, and then further down Clermont, all the way down past Fulton, almost down to Atlantic, where you get these very long views out the back. But for the most part, it's simply a slightly larger reconfigured brick box that sits up and reads as, I think, subsidiary mechanical bulkhead.
Yes, John.
The picture on the right, is that a zoom?
This is a zoom, yes. In all of these, we have the zoom, and then we have,
Right.
yeah, because, I mean, this one, which
That's
is
not
from so
fair.
far away,
Yeah.
you can barely see where the
But that's real.
bulkhead, where the mock-up is, so.
Okay, thank you.
Can you just show a plan of where that entrance, the ADA entrance is relative to the other entrances?
Yeah,
and how you selected
that went
one?
by quickly. This is the existing ground floor plan with the main entry and its steps coming up to a recessed vestibule. That staircase, which will be coming out, one existing elevator core here, and then there's a shorter elevator in the residence. This is that entry, so it has one step at grade, and then there's the vestibule inside, and then steps coming up to the first floor. This is the Chancery residence entry, and then this is a service entry back here. This entry, by reconfiguring this and putting a lift inside, we need to remove the step and we need to make the entry wider. But this allows us to get the ADA access in proximity to the main core of the building. So here's our main elevator and stair core. Here's the entry coming in, and that's.
So I have a question about that. The way, it's a little bit hard to understand what it is that you're slicing in half, actually, but, so if you slice it in half, don't you kind of destroy that material that you're removing? It's like you can't salvage it if you slice it, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was a similar treatment, I think, was done on One Hanson Place, where they created a new entry within the
Right.
masonry wall. And essentially, there's a pair of pilasters. Let me go back one. So it's shown dotted here, but there's a pair of pilasters. One that comes down to this shelf here, and one that comes all the way down. So we'd be removing the one that comes all the way down, and basically creating a clean return there
Right.
in limestone.
But if, but what I'm asking, I get, this might be a Michael Devonshire question also, is if you slice that where you're proposing to slice it, assuming that it leaves intact what you want to leave intact, it destroys the material that you're slicing,
Yes,
right?
we're removing this decorative pilaster on
Right.
each side.
So my question is, if you remove the entirety of it, just sort of cut that piece out, would it be possible to remove the entirety and therefore not destroy it, store it for, because I always am so hopeful that someday we won't need ADA entrances, and then finish off the entrance in another way provisionally? So you're not destroying historic material totally?
I suppose we could, then we would have the condition of how do we finish this, so we,
Yeah.
we're removing a pilaster which supports the lintel above.
Right, so you would cast a new something or other, so that, because even your door surround, it's sort of far away now from the detail, the proposed door surround.
I guess we took the approach of trying to retain as much as we could and get the legal entry. I guess that would retain everything but not on the building.
Okay. Anything else before we go to, thank you, comments? Fred, please? Yeah, we're there. Yeah, go ahead.
No public testimony.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Public testimony is, excuse me, Barbara Zay, please. And then the community board has letters recommending approval of all three applications.
Good afternoon, Barbara Zay of the Historic Districts Council. Our testimony only relates to items 13 and 14, the 4 new row houses. In general, HDC approves of the approach taken in the design of these new row houses. The materials chosen are fitting for this historic district, and they will blend in nicely with the rest of the block. A little more articulation and detail could be used in some of the features, such as a stronger cornice, a more dramatic projecting bay, and/or the use of double doors rather than a single one, so that the houses read as modern interpretations of an historic style and not just watered-down versions. The back facades of the houses are much less successful than the fronts. We question the use of precast stone as well as their design. The fenestration of the single house on Clermont feels random, and the repeated stepped-back terraces of the trio on Greene Street is the sort of massing the Commission has tried to prevent in other row house neighborhoods. With a little more work, these new buildings will be welcomed additions to the Fort Greene Historic District. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further to add based on the testimony?
No, I mean, as David said very eloquently, we've worked very hard to bring texture and depth into this facade, and I think that shows in the sections and
Okay.
the limitations of the 10-inch cornice, which works better on the building this side.
Got it. Okay, now, Fred, thank you.
Good, okay. On the Chancery building, I think the two issues are the cut-in new entrance, ADA entrance, which I think I can approve as shown, and the bulk on the roof, which I also can accept. The new row houses, I think, are very interesting, and like some other new row houses in Brooklyn, I'm thinking of some by probably Rogers and Marvell, by maybe Marvell. Marvelous. And I think this, and there are many more that are coming along, and I think they're all takes on what you described as you were wanting to do. Clearly contemporary when you look closely, but when you don't look too closely, blur your eyes, they kind of really fit in nicely. Other approaches can also be taken. There's some wonderful ones from the 60s in Brooklyn Heights, that we all know, that are very, very different. But nonetheless, I think this is a good approach. And the little tweaks that you've done, I think that's all within the kit of parts. You don't have to, you don't look for historic precedent to see that brick, protrudes 6 or 8 inches outboard of the brownstone base, but who cares? It's your interpretation of a new one. The windows are supersized. Okay, that's okay with me. I think the cornice is big and appropriate. I like the entrances. And then the other part, I guess, that particularly the testimony was clear about was the rear. Historically, a lot of these Brooklyn and probably New York City brownstones did use stucco in the back. My own house, for instance, has stucco in the back. That doesn't mean you want to demean the back or cheapen it so much. I mean, you have a vested interest in doing it well because you want to sell these. And those people are going to be living in the back as much as the front. So I think it's a little inartful, the back. I don't object to the stucco particularly. I just think the windows and so forth are a little peculiar in the back, but are they visible? I've forgotten. Are they visible at all from any public, so that you can, okay, so I'm probably okay, but if you wanted to change the back a little bit, that would even be more okay with me, but listen to others.
Okay, Michael, Devonshire?
I guess I'm okay with everything with regard to the first two, but as regards the new townhouses, I guess let's start with the stucco. And typically, the reason people stuccoed rear facades was because they didn't want to have to repoint them anymore, and it was a cheap way out of having to do any kind of maintenance. So I'm typically not a great fan of seeing new stucco on rear facades. However, that's what we see a lot of now. So it's in this case, because it's new construction, it's the choice of the applicant to sort of cheap out if they wish. And it's not visible. What I have the greatest problem with is the cornices, which appear to me to be that kind of extruded sheet metal that you see the guys in the suburbs pumping out of the back of a truck through a break. And so I have a major problem with the kind of a real kind of nothing cornice on these things. Otherwise, I think it's fine.
John?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the comments that have been made. I think the chancery, the ADA entrance at the rear is very clever, and it's, coming inside, and you don't end up with the lift on the inside, so it saves that. I think that the contemporary approach to the townhouses is appropriate. I think it's modern, but they respect the fabric of the historic district, and I can support that. I'm questionable also on the stucco on the rear facade. I'd like to hear how other commissioners feel, but because it's not visible, I guess I could let it go. And I think that the cornice, I agree with Michael, should be more articulate, but that can be done with staff.
In terms of the Chancery building, I think that the solution I would suggest to the handicapped access is that they salvage and reposition the two double pilaster enframements and just put in a new limestone centerpiece of that cornice, which is relatively unarticulated and should be fairly simple to replicate. And that would allow you to have your historical cake and eat it with a wheelchair. I have no problem with the bulkhead on top. I think that the townhouses are generally fine, and I guess my only concern is that if you is the squint thing that Fred was talking about. I think you have to squint a little bit too much on these, and I think that could be improved by sharpening the details. If I look at the degree of projection, for instance, in some cases it's 3 inches, in some cases it's just a ½ an inch, and some of the mullions are adding up to 6 inches thick. I think that if you look at the formerly Rogers Marvel townhouses or the Ajmi townhouses, which are virtually identical to these, it's the details that make them good. The sharpness of the projected frames, the degree of punch, the fact that, for instance, on this rendering, the brick projection almost makes it over the stoop, but then it kind of slams in there so for a course and a half, you got to chip that brick out. And it's just like, I think that with staff, they can sharpen up the details, make it a little bit crisper, and make it a better product. And I would agree with Michael on the corners.
I agree with those comments and about improving the details, because the details, especially on these on projects where there is a reference to historical style. The detail is absolutely everything between a successful project and an unsuccessful project. I agree. I think it's actually a good solution for the ADA access to move the pilasters over as opposed to chopping them in half. And because then it deals much better with the surround, which I think will look very awkward with one little half of a cut-off pilaster. With respect to the stucco, I actually never think that stucco is an appropriate material unless you're going with sort of a retro 50s, 60s modernist buildings, and where that's the vocabulary. This is the back of the building in a historic district. There should be a real material used, because the material otherwise is concrete block, which is not a finished material. So pick a real material. And I feel the same way about the penthouse, that it should not be stucco.
Yeah, I agree with a number of the comments that have been made.
It's wrong.
I think that the first two buildings, the chancery, the handicapped access, the doors are all fine. I actually felt like the row houses, while the contemporary design is fine, I felt like there's somewhat of a missed opportunity that to really make a little more of a statement, and that these row houses kind of lack character and richness. I mean, they're apologies to my fellow commissioner, they're bland, in my opinion, but, you know, we don't object, we don't necessarily say no to such things. I do think they're contextual. I think that as other commissioners, perhaps they can be helped by some additional detailing and articulation to be a little more interesting and a little finer treatment. I've even seen something where there was more differentiation between the row houses, but be that as it may.
Okay.
I think I can also approve the addition, and I do agree with other commissioners that it would be good if another material other than stucco
Yeah.
could be used.
One last word.
On the rear.
Yeah.
Echo the
Yes.
thing on the brick on the back.
Yeah, brick on the back.
I think that the design as well, we wouldn't approve that design if it were coming forward as a rear yard addition.
Yeah.
So I think it needs a little bit more
Fine.
design attention.
And staff will do that. And is everyone in accord with the chancery
I am.
suggestion? Okay. All right. Yes. No, the access, the handicap, or the whatever it's called. Yeah. Okay. So we'll close the hearing, and then the staff will attend to those three things. And motion and a second. Joan, would you do one? And then there's three of these now. So then ask Michael Devonshire to do the next one, please.
In the matter of 370 to 374 Clermont Avenue, Ward District, Historic District, noting that that there are 3 lots adjacent to the Chancery residence at 378 Clermont Avenue and are currently used for parking space. And the lots were formerly occupied by 3 three-story brownstone residents, which were once part of a row, and the 4 buildings within the former row are extant. I recommend approval, noting that the construction of the new buildings will fill the voids along the street wall and reestablish the row along Clermont Avenue. That the scale and massing of the new buildings are in keeping with the scale and massing of row houses found within the historic district. That the ADA rhythm of the new buildings introduces subtle rhythm to the street wall without overwhelming the architectural features of the historic Chancery buildings or adjacent row houses. That the proportions, configuration, operation, and materials of the dark painted multi-light casement windows and projecting metal window enfranements will be complementary counterpoint to the historic windows found on historic buildings in the streetscape. That the simple and clean lines of the facade details and the proposed brownstone and dark painted metal material palette will harmonize with the streetscape. That the metal railing at the stoop and areaway reflect the level of detail found at the Chancery and the proportions at the row houses. That the plane of the proposed brownstone stucco
No,
go
we'll-
with the stucco finish.
yeah,
We would prefer,
yeah.
instead of the stucco finish, we would prefer brick finish.
Mhm.
Steel cable deck and railing and articulation of window openings at the rear facades will not be visible from the public thoroughfare, and that I'll leave that out, and that the proposed buildings will enhance the special architectural and historic character of the historic district, and I just want to see,
Something on the cornice coming in the next group here?
well, I
with
just want
prof-
to
Oh,
add
yeah,
that we propose that the cornice be
Yeah.
more articulate to improve, and then improve the details in general, and that stucco on the rear facade is not
Mhm.
acceptable, and we
And on
want it
the
to be brick.
penthouse.
And the penthouse, yes, thank you.
okay,
I
sec,
think that's it for this one.
okay, second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Michael, you want to roll into
Yeah.
14?
Matter of 71 Greene Avenue, Fort Greene Historic District, an application to construct the row house, noting that the construction of a new building will fill the void along the street wall and reestablish the row along Greene Avenue. The scale and massing of the new building is in keeping with the scale and massing of row houses found within the historic district. That the building will contribute to a subtle rhythm of the street wall without overwhelming the architectural features of the historic chancery buildings or adjacent row houses. That the proportions, configuration, operation, materials of the dark painted multi-light casement windows and projecting metal window enframements will be a complementary counterpoint to the historic windows found on historic buildings in the streetscape. That the simple and clean lines of the facade details and proposed brick, brownstone, and dark painted metal material palette will harmonize with the streetscape. That the metal railing at the stoop and areaway reflect the level of detail found at the chancery and proportions at the row houses. That the plane of proposed brownstone stucco finish at the base of the new buildings will maintain the historic row house street wall, while the compositional elements, including the stoop areaway, parlor floor entrance, projecting oriel and cornice at the street facade will recall materials and placement of the elements of historic row houses within the district. The massing of the rear portion of the building will recall massing of other row houses within the block. That the finishes, glass balcony, and double-height window at the rear facade will be minimally visible from the public thoroughfare from an oblique angle on Adelphi Street, and that the finishes are materials found on other rear facades of row houses within the block. And the proposed building will enhance the special architectural and historic character of the district. However, certain fundamental aspects of the design will be resolved with the assistance of staff, including the front facade cornice, masonry details on the front facade, and the use of stucco on the rear facade, which will be changed to brick masonry.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Approved. Diana, you want to do the last one? 15, please.
Matter of a certificate of appropriateness, Borough Brooklyn, 378 Clermont Avenue and 75 Greene Street, Fort Greene Historic District. Application is to modify an entrance, create and modify window openings. Am I on the right one? Yeah. And construct a, yeah, and construct a rooftop mechanical bulkhead. I recommend approval with modifications, finding that the bulkhead will be set back from the primary facades, resulting in minimal visibility from directly across the street. That the materials of the bulkheads, including brick masonry and stone coping, will harmonize with the building's material and color palette. That the proposed installation of new windows on the secondary facades will maintain a consistent rhythm and pattern and will not detract from any significant historic feature. That the new dark painted metal double-hung windows and metal doors at the secondary facades will be consistent with windows on secondary facades typically found in buildings of this age and style. That the proposed doors at the roof of the Chancery residence will be minimally visible over the secondary facades. And that the modifications, the iron railing and limestone surround at the Chancery entrance on Clermont Avenue will provide barrier-free access at the least disruptive location. Yeah. And further recommend that the Configuration of the windows be revised to match the historic multi-light configuration, that the visibility of the rooftop bulkheads be reduced. No? I don't think so, sorry. And the pilasters, I'm sorry, the pilasters be entirely removed, relocated, yeah, well, they're going to be removed and then
And then relocated.
relocated to widen the opening. Is it, okay, we got it or not? Anything else? If feasible. Yes, because of there was a
Okay. If physically
everything.
possible. Okay, that's it? Second? All in favor? Aye, opposed? Approved, all three approved, thank you.